All right, today I'd like to do an extension of the 2-5-1 lick video focusing on lick number 13 in a rhythmic context. So what I have here is the 4/4 time signature, the beats of the 4/4 time signature detailed. So if we have a whole note, we're doing four beats on a whole note, 2 beats on a half note, 3 beats on a half note with a dotted half note, and 1 beat on a quarter note, and half a beat on an eighth note. Now remember, eighth notes is pretty much where jazz lives. Eighth notes and 16th notes, that's what you're playing most of the time. That's what gets it really swinging. Now, and this is also, there's again also reason for that. And the reason is that's kind of where syncopation lives as well, right? So once you start getting into eighth notes, that's when things are subdivided, right? That's where you get your upbeats and your downbeats. So if we look at how a tied eighth note is rhythmically counted, it's counted going 1 and. So the and would be on the upbeat, right? So if I'm going to count out a whole measure of eighth notes, it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? So this is what's written here. So 1 and if I tie a string of 4 of them, it'll be 1 and 2 and you can keep going. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, if we're going to play in 16th notes, that 1 is going to turn into, that 1 and 2 and is going to turn into 1 and a. So you're basically going to have 4 beats now underneath that 1 beat. So again, if I play these tied eighth notes and it's 1 and you see the and falls when my hand's going up. So 1 and, right? And if I do the 1 and 2 and. Now if I do 16th notes, it's going to be 1 and a, 1 and a, 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 and a, 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 and a. Now when you get into syncopation is when you start selecting which upbeat you're going to start playing on. So 1 2 3 4 that would be considered something that's syncopated. You hear this a lot in reggae music, right? So they're playing on the upbeat. So they're playing 1 2 3 4 Now this helps in jazz in a lot of ways, but one of the ways it really helps is trying to find what notes to pause on and where to start your lines. And we'll look at this is why I particularly picked lick number 13, because it starts with an eighth note rest. Now, in jazz, a lot of times what we'll do is play what's we call behind the beat, meaning that we'll play a little bit later than when the beat falls. So the beat falls, if the beat falls on 1, we're going to play behind that 1. We're not going to play on top of it. We're going to start a little bit behind it. So it's not technically on an E or on an and or on an because the swing feel obviously is depending on who's playing and what the song is. It's always different, and it's not meant to be something that's that static, but this gives you a good representation of what to aim for. So I could say, okay, if I'm trying to practice my improvisations and how I want to start lines, well, I can try to say, well, let me try to start falling on the E of 1 or on the and of 1 instead of falling straight on 1. Because if you're falling straight on 1 all the time, it's going to be much more difficult to get your lines to swing sometimes. So a good way to position your lines is to try to start, again, behind the beat. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go on the computer and show you a screenshot of the detailed lick number 13 with the rhythmic notation on it. We'll go over that and I'll play it and I'll give you some different permutations of it, right? So what I'm basically going to do is take that rhythmic count, and play lines similar to it, just using that rhythmic count. And what you'll see is that if you're playing in that same key and you're using that rhythmic count, but just the possibilities are endless, and you're going to see the semblance in the line in lick number 13, as opposed to all my improvisations over it. It's going to sound similar, but it's also going to sound very cohesive because I'm using the same kind of rhythmic cadence. All right, so let's go and do that. All right, so let's review lick number 13. I'll start by playing a recording of it for you so you can get it back in your ears.
Number 13.
All right, so that was lick number 13. If we sing it, it sounds like ba da ba da 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 ba do do dee dee do dee da. Now, what I have here is an annotated version of it with the subdivisions and counting like I've just described on the board over there. So let's start actually from right to left, since it gets more complicated going on. So remember, like we talked about, so we're in 4/4 time and we got a whole note here, so that's one beat. Now here on the second measure, we have a string of eighth notes, tied eighth notes. So it's just going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And we have the same thing here with the 3 and 4 and, okay? So that's pretty straightforward. Now here, and this is really where the lick gets its, stylistic essence, and really where it gets its kind of musicality, is in the start of it, where it has this eighth note rest. Remember, that makes it start behind the beat, which makes it start behind the beat. So you have this eighth note rest at the beginning, starting on the and of 1, going into a triplet, which is counted 2 and a. 2 and a. So if we count this out, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2 and a, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. See, so it even sounds good when you're singing it, right? So, and that's typical. Anything that you play on an instrument, if you sing it, it should sound good as well, and not just, like I'm saying, we're not playing the notes. I'm not a singer, right? I'm not singing this. I'm not trying to make it sound like the horn, right? I'm just singing the rhythmic syllables, right? So, and even just singing the rhythmic syllables, it sounds musical. So I'll do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2 and a, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. You see, now, if we take the first part of this, the triplet, and that eighth note, and put it on the 1, now you'll see it'll sound basically just like the rest of it. It'll sound just not as syncopated, right? So if I go and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. You see, it loses its touch. So I'll try that again. So right now, again, so I'm not gonna use this eighth note anymore. I'm gonna start this phrase on the 1 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. You see that again, but now going back to the way it's written with the eighth note rest to start on that. And 2 and a. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and a, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. See, so that gives it so much of a rhythmic styling, and it helps you to start swinging when you have that eighth note rest in there. Because if you listen to the first 4 notes, what's happening is it's almost trying to catch up to the time, right? So if you hear me go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and a 2 and a, you see that and a 2 and a is kind of trying to catch up with the time of the rest of the lick, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and a, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And by the time you get here to the 3 and 4 and, it starts to catch up, because this is all basically in sync with kind of a normal rhythmic timing, right? But this is not, because it's got that eighth note rest, and again, we're trying to swing it, so we're kind of we're always playing with the time in jazz anyway, right? So I'll do this again. Sing this again one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now you probably had enough of that, so I'll go play it on my saxophone and do a couple different notational permutations of it. So I'll play the same rhythm. All I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that rhythm in my head, keep this count in my head, and be playing off that count. But I'm going to be playing in D major and just play off that count, and basically play anything that comes to mind. I'll start this lick, if we remember, starts on an E minor arpeggio with a chromatic going into it. So an E flat chromatic going into the E arpeggio. That's where this ba da 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 da. That's where that two enda, that enda two enda, enda two enda 3 and 4 and comes in. So what I'll start doing is I'll play this lick as it is, and then I'll start playing it off of different arpeggios from the D major scale. So I'll probably start on the E, then I'll go to F sharp, and then I'll just keep going through the series. I'm just playing off this line, but just playing off that kind of rhythmic idea throughout. All right, here we go. All right, so again, here's our lick. I'll play that one more time. Now I'll start doing different permutations of it. Again, so as you can see there, all I'm doing is I'm taking that line and playing it anywhere else I want on the D major scale, right? I'm doing some arpeggiation too in there, but just keeping that rhythmic cadence. And what that does is that'll unleash a whole bunch of slew of ideas to you, even something that you can take all throughout an improvisation. So if I was going to start an improvisation with that lick, I don't maybe even have to play that lick identically like how it is on the page, but I can take the rhythmic idea of that lick and continuously play it throughout any form I want to, right? So I hope that it helps. I hope that aids in clarifying some of the usage of different jazz licks that you can find and play, in and outside of these lessons here. So yeah, thanks for watching.